Hey guys, welcome back to this Messy Hero YouTube channel. Today I'm doing a pretty huge job on the mk1 VR6 turbo car. I am trying to swap in a used spare tire well since this one is indeed missing. Now it should have never been missing, but I made some bad decisions. But now I got a relatively okay one. These are like impossible to find new anymore. After cleaning it off, I keep finding rust holes. Like, I can patch all that stuff and make it clean and nice and neat, but the amount of hours that would go into that, I'd probably rather have just a brand new one. But anyway, I'm not really gonna show you guys exactly what's going on just because it's a horribly messy job. I'm just trying to give you little insights on what I'm doing. I'm using these spot weld cutters, a nice punch, some wire wheels, chisel, hammer, scraper, pliers. So basically all these spot weld holes, I will be drilling all the way through, and then I'll just be plug welding from the inside, the inside to the beam. Can't take this one off the same way I took that one off, you know what I mean? So what I'm doing now is, since this is already destroyed, so if you were in this situation and this was buckled or whatever, you just cut out the floor. And then you find all the spot welds on the inside. You see, like, I'm using my light because you can kind of see the sheen. You see like the sheen of the indent of the spot welds. And then punch them all out. And then I'll drill all these out. After that, I'll kind of chisel it and make sure it's kind of free. And then I'll go up top and I'll drill all the spot welds around, and theoretically I should be able to just push the whole spare tire well up and out. It's probably not going to be that easy, but that's the most logical path I'm choosing. I'd say there's about 50 to 60 just on the trunk panel, including the top. Alright guys, so I wanted to show you how far I've gotten so far. Now I've gotten pretty much every spot weld I could see drilled out. It's delicate. You don't want to go all the way through, but if you don't go all the way through, then you got to go back and kind of grind it. Just came back here and I got this wide mouth scraper, and here's the seam. You'll see there's like two separate pieces of metal. That's that seam. These are the spot welds that I'm cutting to separate it. And you can see that I've already hammered this in, and I've got it moving pretty good. So I just got to keep going down the line, prying, seeing what pops, what doesn't pop. Then I would have to go on the other side and drill a little bit more. It's just a long, repetitive process. So I got the entirety of this panel separated from this frame rail. You can see it's totally separated. So that means now this whole bottom section, since this isn't connected, is 100% free. That means we can now go up top, drill the holes down, and get this out of there. It's going a little easier than I anticipated, so maybe I'll show you some spot weld drilling up top. So here's what up top looks like. You see it's all ready to go. I got all the spot welds punched. Now I just gotta rip through it basically. After lots and lots of drilling and hammering, you can see it's actually loose. I just gotta get it out. There it is. Got the destroyed one out. Have this semi-okay one to go in. And I have no choice but to grind this one down, fix all these rust holes, and get it in. I don't think fixing the rust holes is honestly that big of a deal, but it's just, man, it's a lot of time. And I feel like I probably have to strip this to see if there's anything else, because the last thing you want to do is to put something in there and there's 1 or 2 spots that you don't see, and then in a year you have some holes. And this is a lot of work. And luckily I have a new gas tank in there, so I don't have to deal with gas right now. There's no gas in the car. If you were doing this with a car with gas, you'd have to obviously take it out. Diesel, you'd probably be all right, but that's up to you. So you can see it all attaches up here to this frame rail. Honestly, it looks pretty good. Try to get some good light. Looks pretty good. Just need some grinding on it, getting it ready. And then all up here, I just got to kind of wire wheel everything off and then rush treat it. The next day, it's raining and we have a metal roof, so it's gonna be loud and terrible. I ground down most of the spot welds, so now the new tub can just lay in there. I'm going to take a wire wheel because I don't want to. This is what I'm using, a 40 grit disc. This thing takes metal off like crazy. You don't want to try to go after rust with that, but you just want to knock down metal with it. So down here, I'm going to go with a wire wheel and get the rest of it out. Then I'll do some rust treatment on it, and then after the rust treatment dries, then I'll spray on weld through primer, and then this will be pretty much ready to go. But you'll also see that since this kicks up so much metal dust, I've tried to block everything off. I have some tote lids, taped them off and put rags and stuff under it, and the same thing back here in the corners because this is wide open. You don't want bare metal going in anywhere because it'll be a point for it to rust down the road. So I gotta grind this stuff, get that all ready to go, a little bit underneath clean up, and after that everything should be ready to go on this side of it. And then we still gotta do a lot of grinding over here. I'll probably have Jamie start on this. Yeah, got a lot of work ahead of us. This has been like a horribly messy job. Hopefully you'll see up here, I put some rust neutralizer on anything that's rust that you can't get out. You gotta let it sit for about a day. So yeah, we did that. You can see it turns the metal black right there. So that's done. So all the body side needs now is just weld through primer put on it. And then the spare tire, well, Jamie went through and, well, first we had to de-lip it. So we took the lip off of it, it's outside. So now this is what will lay into the car, and then you weld through this and plug weld it to the body of the car. Since this is used, like, you can't find these anymore at all. So I got a used one, and unfortunately there's a bunch of rust holes, but it's fixable. So I've just been, wherever the rust was, I put my carbide burr in there and just kept going and kept going. So that was one, 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 that one, that was one. It's just a ton, you know. So I'll patch all those holes up and then grind them down flat. What I'm gonna do to try to keep it from like boogering through, I'm gonna have a piece of aluminum. If you're MIG welding steel, it won't stick to aluminum. So if you have a backing plate on the back side of it, it'll kind of keep it, you know, that nice flat edge, whatever the piece you have up against it. Same thing with like a copper spoon, same concept. After all that's done, then we'll grind all the welds down on this side. Then we have some paint stripper and we'll strip the inside of it. We've got a whole bunch of seam sealer. So we'll be coating it with a ton of seam sealer, then painting over top of that underneath the car. So it's still a long way to go, but we're just gonna try to get this ready to, we're just gonna get it welded right now. I forget where we left off, so I'm just gonna kind of do the spiel over again. We needed a new rear tire well, and all I could find was a used one. I found a used one. It needed a bunch of work, and it's a ton of work to do this type of job. We have stripped all the seam sealer off, well, as much as we could, and we went around and we did a lot of rust treating. You can see how it's like black now. That's all this rust treating stuff. What I like to use is this Loctite rust neutralizer, and when it dries it turns it black and you can instantly paint it. Now there were a lot of holes that I found in this, and I just welded them closed. So everything that was a hole, I just filled with weld. I didn't make any patch panels because that's really time consuming. So like, for example, here was a hole here, and now you see it's kind of like a little lump. I didn't want to grind them completely flush because then you risk burning through it and then having to re-weld and go through that process a bunch of times. Now remember, this all comes seam sealer, all right? So all this seam sealer stuff is gonna go over top of all these mounds of weld, and theoretically you won't be able to notice it. Now that I've rust treated everything's sanded down, everything's clean, the underside right here, this is where this is going to sit into the body, and then we're gonna weld through the top side of this to the body of the car. What I'm using is this weld through primer, and that reminded me that I missed this spot. So these spot welds are what go to the back of the frame right there. You can see I've already did the weld through primer on here. You want to lay down primer. It's weld through primer. It's not easy to weld through, but you can weld through it. That way there's a protection underneath. The next thing we'll be doing is I'll lower the car down and I'll spray the other side that'll match up to that with the weld through primer. Then after everything dries, we can set the spare tire well in and finally get it into the car welded. It's not gonna be that much, you know, you just gotta go around with spot welds, but then I'm gonna have to grind them down. After that, then begins the seam sealing. I have two types. I have the brush on, where it's like a tub, and you just kind of scoop it out, wipe it all around, brush it on like it's OEM. And then I have the one that goes in the caulk gun. You wanna use this everywhere. This is also gonna be structurally rigid when you add in that. It's gonna keep squeaks and cracks and all that kind of stuff as well. So it's really good stuff. All the factories use it. So yeah, then I was just going around and I just kind of looked at like random stuff like this. This was a rust hole that's been bothering me for a while, so I just kind of egged it out, filled it up with rust neutralizer. After that dries, I'll probably just give it a skim coat of paint. Maybe I'll put some seam sealer in it. We'll figure that out later. But I feel like since I'm back here in the back, I might as well do anything that could get worse. So all this was kind of rust, so I wire wheeled that down, put some rust neutralizer on that stuff too. We're getting there. Plan to have this done this weekend. Remember, this is probably one of the biggest projects on the channel this year. We have to get it going. This is a humongous step towards having it done. Yeah guys, next clip should hopefully be test fitting it in and even starting to weld. Man, I did not expect it to be that easy. It's like a couple spots we gotta kind of tap flat. I have my big bucket of bolts all around kind of helping hold it down, and what I'm gonna do is just start where it's closest, like the gap, I mean. That way I can do one and then hammer, do one, hammer, that kind of stuff to try to get it as close as possible. All this will be seam sealed. It'll be seam sealed around the top and all around the bottom. If there are any little gaps or whatever, it'll be filled with seam sealer, just like the factory would have done. And then also the spots that I weld through primered, I did go through and kind of used acetone to try to get as much out of the holes, and I also wire wheeled the edge of all of the spot welds up top, because all that has to be, you got to have a good ground connection in order to weld basically. I'm gonna put my shields back over here. I'll probably hook my ground up to one of the seatbelt bolts, because that's a good chassis ground. We're gonna be welding to the chassis, so that's what you need. The best option is usually a door striker. They're usually really good and have high connectivity, but I don't want to lift open the doors right now just because the rear section is kind of flimsy still. I don't want to open the doors, so I'll use the seatbelt bolt holes. I'll try to get some shots of welding, but just know it's not going to be pretty, but it'll be functional. So yeah, let's get to it. It smells fucking terrible. So you guys saw I just got everything welded. Sorry for the noise, I got all the fans going. It's a dirty, nasty job. This is all old, nasty stuff. There's always going to be some sort of materials that are going to be burning while you're welding it. So yeah, make sure you're well ventilated when you're doing this stuff. Welds aren't pretty. They're going to be ground down and they're going to be seam sealed. That's all I can say about that. But every single spot weld has been done. Looks much better further away. Looks pretty good, which this has been a very long time coming. I now have a spare tire well. And since you can see all the black spots, that means that I definitely have full penetration.
That's what she said.
So all here in this joint is going to be cleaned and then seam sealed all the way around. And then all this down is going to be seam sealed, you know, all the way around. But look guys, I mean, looks pretty good. Usually this piece is long enough and it welds to the bottom of here. You can see mine doesn't have that much. Kind of at a standstill because I don't want to seam seal and clean up and all that stuff until all the welding's done. And I'm really low. I'm about to run out of CO2 and argon mix. I have the section that came off of this one, but it was a little nasty and crusty. I gotta go dig it out of the trash because from the back of the car you don't want to see anything. Like, I mean, it's pretty low already. The other option was to push it in and weld it, but then when you do that, you see how much of a gap you get, so it'll look real goofy. Definitely need that piece because it's really flimsy. Obviously it'll crack, bend, and all that stuff over time. Don't want that, so I'm gonna have to get that piece and get it in here, clean it up, and also fix that dent because that dent's gonna bug me. I'll see you guys when I get to that point. Sorry, but this is gonna be a kind of long, drawn out video. It's a lot of stuff and it's probably taking me 2.5-3 weeks to get all this just to this point. It takes a lot of time doing this stuff. That's why rust repair is my 100% most hated job. I've done it for a long time and it's just annoying and terrible. I know you guys want to see that porcelain blue saved, but this is just one spare tire wall and it's taking me that long to at least attempt to do it right. There's always little issues here and there when you don't have all professional tools. It shows you guys that yeah, I don't want to spend all this time doing that porcelain blue, so that's just getting scrapped out. Oh, speaking of it, there it is right there. Oh yeah, see you guys in a little bit.